This episode of File Underwater is brought to you by our patrons at patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv. Your source for supporting your favorite podcast network and all their silly little vanity projects. Love you. My name is Gary Butterfield.
My name is Cole Ross.
And you're listening to File Underwater, the show where we try to convince you that R.E.M. is America's greatest rock band.
And this week we are talking about Life's Rich Pageant.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Me too.
This was a huge breakthrough. This was the biggest commercial success they had so far.
Their first gold album.
Yeah, which is true of most of their records. Like all of their records sold more than the last one, but
right.
This was a big one. And the next one's going to be a big one. Mm-hmm. And the next one, there's just going to be a continuing series of plateaus until about Monster, which was big, but less commercially successful, and then we'll talk about it. Yeah. But we're in the plateauing phase firmly.
Yes.
Yeah.
And for a long time, this was my favorite.
Yeah. This is a wonderful record.
Yeah.
This is really good. I have some issues with it, and we'll talk about that. But that is me going back to it with super rose tinted glasses. Just being like, man, Life's Rich Pageant, dude. Yeah. And then coming back and being like, I'm like, the second half of this album's not very good. And there's it's weird because we'll get into all of it.
Yeah.
As it comes up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you remember last time when we talked about Fables of the Reconstruction, they had a little bit of personnel shakeup. They had a different producer in John Boyd. And they changed up again too.
Mm-hmm.
They started working with a producer who had previously worked with John Cougar Mellencamp, Don Gaiman or Gaiman. I'm not sure how to pronounce that.
Probably Gaiman.
Yeah, Don Gaiman. And instead of recording over in London, they decided to record in Belmont, Indiana, over by Bloomington, kind of near where I'm at.
Yeah, Bloomington, Indiana is great.
Yeah,
that's like a really cool town.
So
birthplace of the American Sexual Revolution.
What's that? I'm sorry?
It's the Kinsey Institute.
Oh, okay.
Is there. So yeah, birthplace of the American Sexual Revolution.
Old man Kinsey?
Yeah, old man Kinsey scale. Let's start calling that for when we get to the dark, weird R.E.M. songs, is how they rate on the old man Kinsey scale.
Yep.
And then that guy from Shawshank Redemption comes out and jerks off in 4 seconds.
Brooks was here.
Yeah, he thumbs onto a pattern that says Brooks
How
was
did
here.
you come on the roof beam?
Listen, old man Kenzie wants to become a stunt comer. First, he's got to learn to jelk.
His nickname was Frosting Bag.
Yeah.
Gary, what's happening? What are we doing?
I don't know. I hadn't thought about that movie in a while.
Oh yeah.
And then just serendipity. So they sought this guy out, when they decided to do it. This guy who was the producer for John Cougar fucking Mellencamp, which is in my mind is really emblematic of a kind of super lame American rock band.
Yeah. This is the guy who produced ROCK the USA.
Yeah. Which, but they, again, they liked those records. These have really big, and they aren't the shittiest rock and roll sounds.
No.
They could be. It's just everything is big and clean in the mix.
Mm-hmm.
Arena rock.
Yeah.
And that's what they wanted, and it's just kind of weird. This, it sounds like I'm on the verge of being my favorite band sold out. And I don't think it's a sellout thing.
No.
I just think it is a weird artistic choice to make this thing that is super polished up and clean.
Yeah. It was internal backlash too. They were so displeased with Fables of the Reconstruction that I could see them, potentially overcorrecting into something else.
I think that's really what it is.
Yeah.
It's them, them being hey, well, let's never do that again. And it kind of bums me out because that album, as we mentioned last time, I like a lot.
Yeah.
And I like a warts and all product generally.
Right.
And I think that this album actually has a lot of flaws that don't, that are different. You know, they're not production wise. Like while concentrating on that aspect, they missed a couple other things. It's weird to read about too, because they were like hanging out with John Cougar Mellencamp.
Yeah.
Like John Cougar Mellencamp was like taking them around to like parties and stuff.
Yeah. Just like showing them the Bloomington scene.
That's weird, you know, but it's a thing that happened.
Yeah.
And they really liked the experience where like the guy, Gemin, was super professional, would spend a lot of time and kind of coax them into being a band that it sounded like they were open to being, but like it didn't come naturally for them at all.
No.
Spend forever on the drums. Like Stipe got really frustrated with him. He would question Stipe about lyrics.
Yes.
Like I read a bunch of things about Stipe, like leaving the studio with him being like, what do you mean by this? Why would you say this?
Yeah. Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
And him just being like, and I think that's actually like album suffers for that.
Yeah.
You know, like it's and he didn't like working long days.
No.
Which I love. Like he'd be like, yeah, we're done after like 6 hours. And they were like, this is great because I'm not tired. I don't feel like shit. Whereas before they'd be like, let's record for 20 hours in Mitch Teacher's garage.
Yeah.
And just get this done as soon as possible. Because if we stop, we'll die.
Right.
You know, and this is like, oh no, we're adults and we can have a day, you know, these can be day job hours.
Yeah.
You know,
and so even though Gemin would not end up working with them in the future, really, like it just they never lined up again because he was very very busy as a producer, and R.E.M was not so big on things like planning. They learned a lot from him. They learned studio production tricks and how to mic individual instruments, and just kind of how to coax out the real hook of the song that they were trying to do. You know, that they were trying to make. You know,
and specifically how to like kind of not directly mic instruments. Right. Like one of the things that comes through in the sound in this that I really you know, that is a good lesson to learn. You know, as someone who has spent a minor amount of time in a recording studio. Is like getting room sound.
Right.
So like there's an anecdote where Peter Buck is specifically saying like, you know, I just, you know, you put the mic up next to the amp.
Yeah. Cause that's what you do when we, that's what we do when we're live.
Yeah. When you want to record an amp, you put the mic next to it. And then this guy come and be like, no, what if, you know, what if you get a little bit of the room sound and put the microphone a little bit back and like, listen how this sounds, you're going to get natural kind of reverb as opposed to, and it does make, you know, the actual sound of the instruments, like this is a big, very clean record, but it does sound, you know, it sounds pretty good.
It sounds
accessible. Yeah, it sounds lived in and accessible, but not so slick as to be, you know, overly like it doesn't sound like that's my big problem with like Reveal is like Reveal sounds too produced.
Yeah.
This isn't that. It just sounds like every instrument is big and crisp.
Reveal's a mannequin. It has no pores.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's exactly. It's a ghost in the shell. So
yeah,
this is.
Yeah, and and this isn't like I have a similar problem. It's a fantastic album, but Nevermind has a lot of that like very shiny production that doesn't fit the band very well.
Yeah.
This it definitely feels like it's complimentary.
Yeah, it does pretty well. And the band at this point, like personally and kind of in the studio, are really like kind of happy-go-lucky.
Yep.
Like they like working 6-hour days. They liked not being in Europe. They still were doing like tour. They did a tour for this.
Yeah.
But they just felt better. And it kind of like, you know, all the anecdotes were like, yeah, this was really easy and positive and good.
Yeah.
You know, like getting the sound took a little while, but we felt good. And that kind of comes through too in a way that I don't always think is to the album's credit, because there is like a lightheartedness to this that I think kind of hurts it at points.
Yeah, because it is good to know that they're having fun, but at a certain point it becomes insubstantial. But I will die on the Superman hill.
I you know, like as a closer, I don't know, man. I can't. I like Superman. It's hard for me to die on that hill.
Yeah.
Like, it's a good song as a non like such a perfect B-side though. Like.
Yep.
It is so slight to be a closer, and both the sides close with novelty children's
stuff.
music.
Yeah.
You know, and the big thing, and we'll get to this when we talk about the B-sides, but they didn't, you know, they recorded a lot of material for this, did a lot of demos. A lot of them, there is a feeling of like a little bit of lack of inspiration to me.
Yeah.
Because a lot of those demos and stuff were old songs. You know, so there are more demos for this, more outtakes, but a lot of them are like from their very early days. And I just had this sense of it's like, you guys need to spend a little bit, like write some more songs.
Yeah.
You know, like this just, you guys just need to write a couple more songs and this would have been a little bit stronger and you wouldn't have had this milky second half.
Yeah.
And some of those demos are excellent. like would have been really needed to be on the album. And I think that's a thing too. So we'll get into that as well.
For as much as this has kind of the chaotic energy of a Reckoning, it doesn't have the inspiration behind it. That's
what
a lot of times. Yeah,
that's what I think too. And it runs. Listening to this album is a lot like sitting in a bathtub while it slowly drains. Like it is like really, really strong. And then just gets kind of weaker as you go. Like even, Superman is a good song. It ends on kind of an up note, but the second half is full of kind of like middle of the road R.E.M. songs. I think are on the wrong side of the, good or bad thing. Like as opposed to B minuses, some like C pluses, and it bums me out. Yeah. Cause it opens so strong, which of course we'll get to.
This is a very political album. And it's very directly political. Probably again because of Gaiman's coaching, but also because Stipe was getting more confident in taking a stance and writing about stuff. Like in earlier interviews, he said like, yeah, if musicians want to be political, they should do it off the stage. And he starting with kind of the previous album and Green Grow the Rushes started doing like a course correct on that. And by the time this came out, like a lot of this is about his relationship with like being the voice of a generation. Yeah. And he kind of came around on this idea of having, and this is something that I'm sympathetic to. Not only like, it's not something, it's weird because I'm sympathetic to him as a person doing this, and politically I'm very much in line with his beliefs. Right. It just makes for songs I like a little bit less. But like he's come around on this idea that I've also come around on, where I'm like, if you have a voice, you have a responsibility to use it for good. And when I was younger, like I used to always think that like charity is meaningless if it's not anonymous. And then like I got older and I'm like, oh, like Duck Spring exists. Like if we didn't do that, then this other thing wouldn't happen. So it's like, it's not about our ego. It's about how can you do the most concrete good. And sometimes that involves literally saying like, hey, you like me for X, do Y, and they, at this time, like they were super involved in local politics, and they still are. And we're like, this is when he started getting people like elected. For things like he Fall on Me, the single from this, and one of the best like R.E.M. songs ever, was his background music for campaign ads he did on the college radio to get like progressive candidates elected in Athens, Georgia. Like he's like realized like, hey, I have this power. It's not just hedonism. It's like I can actually change the world with this just by, with my tastes and with my, and that's a cool thing. That's not something to be shit on, even though I think the lyrics to this make worse songs with how direct they are. Right. For me. And he also had a partner in that with Burtis Downs. Eventually Downs would become their manager, but he's always been their legal counsel, going back to the Murmur days. But using his knowledge of law and just the local politics, Burtis Downs was able to help him be more effective in, kind of like calling his shots for how to put this together. So it was like a really good pairing, a really good team up. Yeah. Yep. The title comes from the Pink Panther, the sequel to the Pink Panther movie called A Shot in the Dark. Such a good movie. I've never seen it. Yeah, I like the idea, the shot there, or the scene though, where like he's coming out of a lake, he falls into a lake, and comes out, and somebody says something to him, and he's like, no, this is all part of. Do you have the lyric directly? It's something like, oh, you need to take off the wet clothes, you're going to catch your death of pneumonia. And Clouseau says, well, doesn't matter if I do. It's all part of life's rich pageant. Yeah. Which became an in-joke with the band during this tour. So like when the sound guy wouldn't show up or like a speaker would blow, they would say, well, that's all just part of life's rich pageant. It was their version of So It Goes. Yes. Yeah. And so you're going to notice there's no apostrophe in life's rich pageant. It's like a children's hospital kind of thing. And that is because of the band Superstition. This has popped up before, but they do not like apostrophes. To loosely quote Peter Buck or Michael Stipe, no great rock album has ever had an apostrophe in the title. Yeah. Yeah. So, and we'll see that we didn't call it out every time it happened before this, but it happened in any song that would have had an apostrophe. Yes. Previous to this. They kind of ditched the instrumentation that was not, kind of their standard stuff, in favor of this old pump organ that they had. And it's on every track, actually. It's a lot of times it's pretty buried in the mix, but it's there. Yep. Except for Swan H. Speaking of pretentious song naming conventions. And that pump organ was also part of this, hey, everything happened so easy. They said, hey, we'd love to have some organ on this. And then Gaiman said, well, I might know where to get one. And they literally just like dusted one off from a warehouse in town and brought it in. Like everything just kind of fell into their laps logistically for this.
Yeah. They, and that's good for them.
Yeah.
Good luck is okay.
Yeah.
So the record itself, the cover is a picture of Bill Berry, which I love because you get his eyebrows.
His iconic,
best eyebrows. Yep. Best eyebrows in rock.
His iconic topiary. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. But that's just the top half is just his, eyebrows, eyes, and part of his nose. And the bottom part is some bison. Get it? Mm-hmm. Get it?
Yeah. Yep. Because everything's a joke. The sides are named dinner and supper side because we're a bunch of goofy Southern weirdos, and we like fun. And
I am so ambivalent about that because on one hand, I think that is clever in its way, but it's also Wendell G. Shucks.
Yeah. It's cute.
Yeah.
I think it's a preponderance of cuteness.
Yeah.
That does it. It's not just one cute thing.
Yeah, this is before they would get to Stand.
Yeah, exactly. Which I like Stand too, but that whole album isn't full of like super cutesy things.
Yeah.
It's a one cutesy thing. What reminds me, my friend Will, former housewife Will, was defending on Twitter. He was talking about the scene in Indiana Jones 4 where Indiana Jones gets in the fridge to protect himself from the nuclear blast.
Okay.
And he was like saying like it's stupid that people call that out as like the ridiculous thing, because it's like it's kind of like him getting out of a tough situation. It's what he always does. It's pretty in line with Indiana Jones. And like regardless of that, like I think that the reason why that stands out is because like that whole movie is full of shit like that.
Yeah.
So taking an aggregate, like it kind of like becomes too silly.
Yeah.
It's not like one individual element. So like underneath the bunker on its own, great. But just this wave of silliness.
Yeah. I mean, and you're right. Like that movie is 80% monkey attacks, and this album is 80% baboons to the left of me, baboons to the right. The part in Crystal Skull where the monkey attack part, where Shia LaBeouf is swinging on monkeys, and the other monkeys look over and they're like, you know what, this guy's got a good idea. Let's go with him. Is one of my least favorite things ever committed to film. Like I fucking hate that. I think it's so stupid. Like Shia LaBeouf and the Monkey Brigade coming to the rescue, I think is so bad and dumb. Yep.
It is a crime. I don't know.
Anyway, the album listing on the back of the album, or the track listing on the back of the album, is incorrect, and they've never fixed it. So who knows how intentional it was? They just kind of leaned into it. So the tracks are out of order, or they're left off entirely, as is the case with Underneath the Bunker and Superman, both of which are kind of treated as bonus tracks, unlisted tracks.
Yeah, and we're kind of last minute additions.
Yeah, to
their sequencing.
Yep.
Yeah.
And this was like we mentioned, this is the first gold record, so they got some success. They kind of eked it out, but something that's notable, we've never really called this out. Like not the next album, because that's going to be Dead Letter Office. But when we get to Document, they're going to have number one singles. They've never had a single that charted.
Yes, even though Fall on Me should have.
Yeah.
Sadly did not. What's the band doing around this time?
Well, the book that I read, again, I'm reading either it's Perfect Circle or Remarks Remembered. It has a short little bit about a documentary that was being made at the time that I was not able to find. It's called Athens, Georgia, Inside Out, /out. And it's kind of like them trying to document this Athens social scene, and kind of in line with everybody not really liking R.E.M. there anymore because they made it good. People think that R.E.M. hijacked it because they came back. Like, you can't talk about Athens without talking about them, and people thought that they skewed the coverage or what have you. Just shitty scene politics. Yeah,
and it did mean that like a lot of the smaller bands probably got a little bit less airtime. There, and this was something that was an early 120 minutes on MTV. They would show this. Kind of in multiple parts. And there were a couple of promotional videos that come from it of live R.E.M. performances from this. I think in the original notes I sent you, I had the video for Swan Swan H as a music video, but that's actually from Athens, Inside Out.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So yeah, that is not an official video. That's from this documentary.
Nice.
It's them recording in this weird like old church. So and there's all our old favorites in there. So you get some Love Tractor and B-52s and stuff in there.
Of course.
They are being goofy party weirdos during this time. So they were kind of leaning into this rock star kind of like don't have to be truthful or genuine in my day-to-day life because it's a performance, Yeah. And they just because they thought it was funny, so they Michael Stipe, who was kind of in these parties and was not able to. This is actually the beginning of when he starts kind of separating himself from the band socially.
Yes.
In a weird way. So they would still end up at these kind of parties together. But he didn't really fit in. Like he would there's stories where he would get kind of bored. These were in my books as well.
Mm-hmm.
I would pretend to faint.
Yeah.
And then
ostentatiously was the sense that I got.
And Peter Buck would be like, okay, I'm sorry. Like I got to go and drag him out. And then they would just leave and go to a different party.
Right.
Very specifically, they brought during the pageantry tour, they brought I can't remember the lady's name is escaping me, but like at some point, Michael Stipe was just kind of like, yeah, I'm hanging out with these in this tour bus like all the time. I can't really handle it, and started traveling in a separate car.
Oh yeah, he
the tours.
It was for the Document tour actually.
Yeah,
and supported that like leading up to it. It's when he started riding with Natalie Merchant. Actually, he had a separate tour bus. Different
thing.
Oh, okay.
This happened before this. This was like a fan friend we rode with during the pageantry tour.
Yeah.
So this wasn't a separate tour bus. It was just like this lady was just following R.E.M. like a groupie.
Yeah.
And he was like, I would rather hang out with you guys.
Yeah.
There's a kind of a cute anecdote of the first time this happened. Bill Berry found the lady, and I feel bad for forgetting her name, but he found her and like cornered her and was like, hey, you're really going to do this, right? And she's like, yeah. And he's like, okay, what do you do if something bad happens? Like quizzing her. And she's like, you mean if the car breaks down? He's like, yeah, what do you do? And she's like, I get a tow truck and make sure he gets to the show no matter what. And he's like, okay. And then like left. Like they were really nervous about letting this kind of like flaky weirdo out of their sight. Who is just like, yeah, because he won't do it. Like you have to make sure you do this.
Yeah.
But it's not like a division in the band. It was just kind of like, three kind of partying rock dudes, and then Michael Stipe who wanted to do weirdo art shit.
Yeah.
On the side. So there is this kind of like, he's always been a little bit of a separate piece.
Right. Yeah. The tour bus is way too much beer swilling, whereas he was over there with his absinthe fork, kind of flinging paint at canvases.
Yep.
So that was a thing there. Stipe was also like we said, going around doing these doing these local politician things, but they were also able to take time off, which is kind of strange. Like they've never really done that. So they all had their own projects that they went to. So like Stipe went and recorded with the Golden Palominos, which I'm sure we're going to talk about next episode on Dead Letter Office.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The which is he did some live vocals. They also produced some things. Mike Mills produced some local bands, things like that. There's a quote from one of the guys. I think it is a guy who is in Camper von Beethoven, who's talking about in the oral history about he's like, I love R.E.M. and I've never liked anything they've produced, like anything they But they do talk about their kind of production styles being really different.
Okay.
Where like when Mike Mills or Bill Berry would get involved in something, it was very technical. And would talk about arrangements and kind of like help them massage the songs. And Peter Buck kind of like would let them, just kind of like record, like let them do what they wanted to do, and it's kind of hands off. And Michael Stipe didn't know anything about this shit, but he would be a producer, like come in and quote unquote produce people's stuff and just kind of cheerlead.
Yeah,
like he would come in there and be
like a taste coach or something.
Yeah, like you're doing great. Just like I like you, keep doing it. So it's kind of interesting to see how their personalities reflect everything they do. It's not just the music or anything. It's also the kind of music they like and produce. I want to find the Feelies album that Peter Buck recorded because I like the Feelies.
I'd never heard of
the Feelies are good. They're good.
Yeah.
It is a cool, weird 80s college rock band.
Yeah.
And they're neat.
but he did that. I think a parent passed away, and also he ended a long-term relationship. So like to keep himself busy, he just went back to work at the Wuxtry record shop. He didn't take a salary. He was just like, hey, I'm going to just pay me in vinyl. Let me take some of this. And it kind of came across like an ego move. Like he set up there and then just spend most of his time talking to R.E.M. fans.
Yeah, and they eventually had to stop because he wasn't getting anything done. Like there were just people would show up, kind of tourists there.
Right.
The Pageant tour was almost exclusively America,
right.
Which is like they saved money doing this, and then they also don't like touring Europe.
Right.
So they're trying to get out of that. I found a live show from my hometown, from the Chick Evans Fieldhouse in DeKalb, Illinois.
Yeah.
And I don't send this to you, but one of the things that's interesting is the guy who wrote Superman is at that show, and they bring him up on stage to sing Superman.
Oh, I read about that. Yeah, I saw DeKalb mentioned in my book, and I made a note of it, but I didn't draw the connection.
It's the guy is real. He's playing tambourine while he sings. He looks a little bit like Piers Morgan. Like, it's very weird. It's just, and he's just kind of dancing like a dork singing the song on R.E.M. and he's in the oral history book, and he loved that they covered it.
Yeah,
like it's really cute. Like he's just like, yeah, I love this, and I love that this is happening. This is so great.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, it's cool that they showed up in DeKalb because I mean it's near Chicago, but it's not a huge town in and of itself.
Yeah, it's an incredibly small town.
Yeah,
like it's super small. It's really weird, but they did a lot of colleges, at this time.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and so there are live shows. You can find them on Apple Music, or you can see them on YouTube. Something that I noticed, because of the way the album is produced as this very clean representation of the instruments themselves, the live versions don't actually differ much in arrangement or approach from what from what I was able to see.
Yeah, not too much. Yeah, which is again is fine. Yeah. The nice thing about there's actually 2 reissues of this. There's one that has only a couple of extra tracks and a live show, which again is kind of just for completists only. The most recent one, I think it's the 25th anniversary one, has about 1,000 outtakes and really weird demo versions.
It's like a 29 track album.
Yeah. That's great. And that's really worth listening to because there's a lot revealed in comparing the demo and live version or demo and recorded versions. Mm-hmm. Of things much more than there are comparing the live and recorded versions.
Yes.
And it kind of sucks because later R.E.M. albums kind of stopped getting this treatment, this like outtake heavy treatment.
Yeah.
A lot of those reissues do just have a live show as the second side or the second disc. Mm-hmm. And, that's cool, but it's not as revealing.
Yeah.
I live for the outtakes are a big part of why I've really enjoyed doing the show is finding weird songs I didn't know existed.
And just the stuff that fell through the cracks, but like that would show where they were at the time. Like, okay, this didn't make it, but this other thing did. What possibly could have informed that decision?
Yeah. Yeah. They were doing a lot of the same when they were doing live things. They were doing a lot of the same covers that they had done on the last tour. Mm-hmm. Again, kind of maybe speaking to that kind of lack of kind of like growth in that sense.
Yeah.
That sounds like too much, but the same way that I feel like I wish they had written more songs before doing this, or like at least chose different songs from the ones they'd written, but going back and recording all the right threads and things like that. But they covered, Have You Ever Seen the Rain, the CCR song. Mm-hmm. A lot of the songs that they covered on this are on the live show that we recorded, included in the Fables episode. So go back to that as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you want to begin?
Yeah, let's begin. Let's begin.
Yeah,
let's have dinner.
So starting on dinner, I love this song so goddamn much. Begin the Begin is an amazing opener.
Yeah. This is real good. The first I'd say I'm gonna say 4 songs on this record. Like the whole first side of this is so A+ and good.
Yeah.
But it continues for a long time. Like kind of the quality. I like these days a little bit more than I like Begin the Begin.
Okay.
But Begin the Begin is excellent.
The thing that I love about Begin the Begin is it is so from outer space when it comes to the structure.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah.
It's got a chorus that they repeat twice, but like
it's got a riff, ding 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 ding. Like it's got this little silly New Vegas riff.
Yeah, that's like the only consistent thing aside from this 4-line chorus that they go to. Everything else is just bridge. Almost there's no real verse structure to it, but it's driven. It's not meandering whatsoever. Like it is just this stream of consciousness kind of, just a approach to this unapologetic rock song that is fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's got these real kind of military like drums kind of thing to it. Not quite like a march, but this, the drums have this real drive sound to them.
Yeah.
There's this like real I I almost said U2 and I don't want to because I don't like U2 that much, but it reminds me a little bit of like a U2 thing.
Yeah.
And I don't say that to be damning.
Right.
But it's got a lot of backbone to it. It's a very strong song.
Yeah.
And I think
lyrically it's like a pump up song. It's like a protest kind of thing. Like it just very indistinctly pushing somebody to like be activist. Like, hey, you know, like the time is now, the insurgency began and we missed it. Yeah. You know?
Yep. And the lyrics are not so direct. Like I like the next song more, but the lyrics in the next song are a little bit too direct for me.
Mm-hmm.
This, they're at least a little bit weird, especially this kind of breakdown part, which is probably my favorite part.
Oh, it's great.
which is really, really good. And again, becomes kind of confessional and self-referential in the middle of it. Where he kind of starts kind of like, it's like speak singing, like you've got it in the notes as rapping. It's not, it's kind of like, it's like rapping the same way like Fred Snyder, like, he's up at the top of his.
He breaks meter in this. Yeah. It's not, it doesn't scan just like it normally would.
Yeah. It becomes very percussive. So I guess it is kind of rapping because it breaks meter, but then he starts landing on the beat where he's like, I can't think, like it's very like emphasized.
Yeah. I can't think clearly. I looked to me for a reason. It's not there. I can't even rhyme. Begin the begin.
Yeah.
So picture a 16 and a half year old Cole in his shitty 1995 Pontiac Grand Am, listening to this on full blast when the heater wouldn't work and the inside of the windshield was completely frosted over. Listening to this on my way to school is like a pump up jam. Like, fuck yeah, we're gonna make today happen.
Yeah. It is a really good pump up song. Like this is a great song. This kind of 1-2 punch that this does is phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
And this was the kind of standard closer for goofy irony reasons.
Of course.
During the large section of this tour. Yeah.
Yep. Way into it.
Yep. I like it a lot.
Yeah. Tell me why you like These Days.
It's blisteringly fast.
Yes.
It is, again, super urgent. The kind of guitar, the distorted guitar in the beginning of it, like when people are like, you didn't think R.E.M. could rock. I think legitimately sounds like big and rocky in a way that doesn't sound dated, like at all.
Yeah.
That kind of like riff, banging on that note from that. There's a live version of this from the Green Tour. That's my favorite live performance that they've done as well, which I watched a lot when I was young.
Yeah.
That has like a real huge energy to it. I think that the lyrics are a little bit too direct for some of the where do you when you find lyrics that you find them here? Yeah. Where do you find them? Because I'm looking at some. So here's the thing. In the notes, you say this has a fish motif. I don't think it does, but I'm looking at lyrics right here that replace some of the words that make it seem like it does.
I'm looking on genius.com. Does
it say like, I wish to eat each one of you? Because then it could be about a fish, but he says meat. And he's referred to it as meat. It's definitely MEET.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to eat all the people who's singing to.
Right. But he's also like menacingly talking about like, if I could, I'd rearrange your scales. Talking about marching to the ocean, marching to the sea. At the very end, I'm not feeding off of you. Rearrange the scales. Let me see here. If I had a hat and sunk it, reached down, yanked it up, and slapped it on my head, like it for like to me, like it sounds like he's doing like a metaphor around this. I don't know, and I just kind of ascribe that to like a kind of self-consciously goofy southernness to it. But
I have a completely different read on this. That's interesting because like I don't think the scales are fish scales. I think it's like your scales of measure. I will rearrange your, like, I'm gonna fuck this shit up.
Yeah.
And the kind of, because this is the one that to me that sounds like a protest song or like a young anthem. Like, we are young despite the years. We are concerned. We are hope despite the times. Like this is very like direct.
Yeah.
To me as like you have to, be stronger than this now. Happy throngs, take this joy, like take this. This is him trying to be inspirational.
Yeah.
The idea of this literally, because if he does say, if it's about fish and then he does say, I want to eat each one of you.
Yeah.
And it's addressed to fish. I think that's very funny.
Yeah.
Like that would be a very funny take for this, but I'm not making fun of you. I'm making fun of the song. Like if it were about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's very funny.
Yeah. I just, it could very well be a case of a bad lyric sheet. Again, last episode I said you need to take them with a grain of salt. Yeah. So I don't know. Like I just kind of chalked it up to it being an indistinct metaphor that I couldn't quite see what they were getting at outside of the chorus, which is very direct.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I can see it.
Yeah. I
can see it just because if it ends with him saying he wants to eat them, like the idea just of any singer singing a song to food that he wants to eat is very funny to me.
It is a war anthem.
It is for me, it is very much, this is the like, hey, you have youth power, rock the vote.
Yeah.
Of the album,
which they would get to.
Yeah. Which and they eventually become like very direct on, but this even the chorus of this, which I love melodically and everything, and the least cynical part of me can get into the idea of like, we are young despite the years, we are concerned, things like that. Like that does feel a little bit anthemic in a way that feels slightly too direct for me.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that I really love this song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. I feel like it is about that kind of connection to the people listening and wanting to kind of be this leader.
Yeah. And that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah. What's weird though, because Fall on Me is entirely addressed to a chicken. So like
he was doing that 30 Rock thing where he's trying to make something that Weird Al couldn't parody.
Yeah. And then the real like later albums, like the band broke up, but a lot of his solo stuff is just addressed to Hot Pockets and Pringles. So like
his diet gets worse as this means.
Yeah. Well, I feel like I used to eat only garlic and potatoes, but now I've been told that if I eat exclusively Hot Pockets, I'll live forever.
Well, there's a lot of variety. You have broccoli and cheese, ham and cheese, 4 cheese pizza. Stipe, hey, Mike, you're a vegan, right?
Yeah. You cannot have these Hot Pockets. Get these Hot Pockets off my Stipe.
These Hot Pockets are not for you.
These Hot Pockets are killing me.
So we should talk about Follow Me. I think this is the track that it hit like 94 on like the AOR charts. Maybe it was one chart that it just like briefly peeked into and then broke away, but it was their first kind of hint that they would be able to eke something out.
I mean, I feel like this is South Central Rain masterpiece level songwriting. Like this is really, really phenomenal. And this is it's on that live show from Fables, and it'll be on the demo track here, but this got like fixed.
Yes.
Like this there's a demo version of it that has a different vocal melody that works significantly worse. And they just kind of massaged it until it happened. And this would be one of the things that like the producer being like, why would you sing that? Like maybe he fixed this, know? And that's something that you can kind of credit him for.
Yeah. But this is, gentle. It could be called middle of the road if it wasn't so fucking melodic.
Yeah. It is too dynamic to be kind of a standard R.E.M. song.
Yeah. And it's also overtly environmental. They're talking about buying the sky, selling the sky. Yeah. There's a read on this in the book that I read where it's about acid rain, but it could be about anything, about any kind of exploitation of, the natural world around us.
Yeah, I kind of see it as kind of generally environmental. Like one of the quotes I had in my thing was that the original version of the song was about acid rain.
Yeah.
And then he broadened it to be about kind of oppression. And one of the things that's really interesting from a production trick is the original version of the song is hidden in this one. There's a counter melody in the second verse that's like very low in the mix and hard to hear. Like you will never make out the lyrics, but Stipe said like those are the lyrics that are about acid rain.
Okay.
The new stuff that's on top of it is not about that, but it still contains that old song. And you can, if you don't pay attention, you can miss it, which is kind of weird. But if you listen really hard, there is like an entirely different kind of low counter melody that Mike Bills is doing over the entirety of the second verse.
And Mills really steps up in the chorus as well for this. And I love this thing that R.E.M. does, where the chorus is Michael Stipe repeating the same thing over and over, while the backup kind of adds their own counterpoint with kind of more complex melodies.
Yeah, and that's going to be forever. That's the end of the world. We know it.
It's been the case since Wolves Lower.
yeah. It's an R.E.M. trick.
Yeah.
It's just such a good trick. I think this song is beautiful and great, and just very, very pretty, and works phenomenally. Huge highlight for Mike Mills. Very, very good.
Yeah.
In the Weird Unplugged album, the Unplugged set they did, and the Reveal tour, the MTV Unplugged thing, Michael Stipe said this was his favorite song that they had ever done.
Yeah, I could see that.
And it's like, I could see it. This is like contender for the best R.E.M. song. It's really, really good.
Yeah. And again, you put the gold and you bury the gold at 3.
Yeah. 3 is a good spot for that.
Yeah.
The album continues though, because it's like Cuyahoga is a really good song too.
Yeah. It's again, you pronounce it like he does. That's not how it's said.
No. Well, you're a weird Ohio guy because so you know what this is, right?
Yeah, it's Cuyahoga.
Okay.
He pronounces it Cuyahoga, which, if you're looking at it, I could see that. I really like this song. I don't know if it's because of I don't know how much of that is me carrying North Ohio pride into this. But yeah, Cuyahoga. So the Cuyahoga River runs through Cleveland. Famously, that is the river that always catches fire. And did up through the 70s. It's kind of taken as a point of simultaneous shame and pride. So Cleveland, even people in Cleveland will refer to themselves as the mistake on the lake. That is often applied to the Cleveland Browns themselves. But hey, we're the city that figured out how to light water on fire.
Yeah. Which they would do is like to clean it. You do it to burn away the stuff, which is interesting.
Yeah.
And that ends up being a lyric in this as well.
Yeah. There's a delicious beer. One of the tastiest beers from Great Lakes Brewing is called Burning River. Like it's a thing up around where I'm from.
Yeah. This thing that Michael Stipe just saw as an environmental tragedy. You swamp people have decided to make a badge of honor, right?
Swamp people.
Get
it? we're lake folk. Come on.
Yeah. I think that this is a really good and very pretty song where some of the lyrics are too direct for me again. Like they're still good. Like I can, again, if I tap into the least cynical part of me, a song that literally says like, let's put our heads together and start a new country up, which it just sounds, it's like, I don't know. It's like political Raffy. Almost I still dig it. It's so direct.
Yeah.
And that's what we're going to be working with here for a little while. Like there are touches of that, where he doesn't get away from that, but this is a real sea change in Stipeness. So like we had our biography album lyrically, and now like we'll get little touches, but for the most part, it's just going to be like, hey, here's a direct lyric. And it's intentional. When you read him talking about it, he's like, I need to do this because part of my responsibility of being this kind of spokesman is also, not obfuscating my message, like getting people to get it.
Yeah.
That just it's not a bad move or a aesthetically incorrect move. It's just one that doesn't match up with my sensibilities quite as much.
Right. And so it sucks that is what the song opens up with. I could see let's put our head together, start a new country up. There's no good place to put that, but like as a stinger on a chorus or something like that would probably work. Everything else around this, I feel like talking about the water and the river, it is just the fact that again, political Raffy is a very good way to put that, is so out front in it that I think, this makes this song not Cuyahoga because that chorus doesn't come in well into the song. This makes the heads together new country song, right?
Yeah.
But like,
and just the simplicity, like the directness works sometimes. So like the chorus where he just says like Cuyahoga gone. Yeah. Like that's such a good, like direct way to deal with an environmental thing.
Yep. Take a picture, take a souvenir, Cuyahoga. Yeah. Like that's all we're gonna have left is memories of this thing. I love the I love the notion of like skinning knee skinning the river red. Yeah. Just like we're hurting ourselves. There is violence that we're doing to ourselves that is also, completely fucking up the landscape like this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So musically, this is a fantastic, very pleasant melodic song. Again, kind of following up, similar in tone or a twin a little bit to Fall on Me, except it's a little bit more meandery. I think what really steps out in this is the bass. I think that there's so much awesome stuff happening in the bass with this that like it's easy to miss it, but like that is where the true genius in this is at.
Well, and when you get to, it does take a while for that chorus to pop up, but when it does, it is such a big harmonic soaring triumph kind of thing.
Yeah.
And just something that like is a name. So it has the effect of just kind of turning into just syllables, in the chorus. So you can really hit all of those individual notes, and kind of really appreciate the musicality of the vocals.
Yeah.
Without it being, having a lot of kind of percussive word breaks, kind of in there.
Yeah.
But it is a super good song. So again, we're strong, super strong start. Hyena is a little bit not as great to me. I don't mind this, but I don't think it's wonderful.
I don't mind it, but I don't get it. So it's cool to have a little pickup in energy. So we had this breathless opening. We have this kind of soft middle, right? With Fall on Me and Cuyahoga. So you'll remember last episode, we talked about them leaving this off of Fables of the Reconstruction because it was a little bit too fast for that. Here they took it and they sped it up. The actual music part of this is not that big of a problem for me. Just because like, hey, it's a, really fast kind of punky alt rock song, right? I don't know what the lyrics are doing here whatsoever.
No, I don't really know either. And it's not hitting any heights, I feel like in either respect that it could.
Yeah.
And by that I mean like I don't know what the lyrics are doing, but they're not evocative and great or anything either. Like it's not like they're abstract, so they don't have that kind of meaning. They're also not just cool turns of phrases.
Yeah.
And when you do kind of get the meaning, it's real life's rich pageant over directness. Like the only thing to fear is fearlessness. The bigger the weapon, the greater the fear. Like, and this is, one of the things when I was young and I couldn't really understand the lyrics. It says hyena is the ambassador to here. For some reason I heard is saying hyena is the ambassador to Guam when I was young. And I was just like,
that's a very prestigious post. However, we don't need to have an ambassador. Like Guam is ours.
Good for a dog creature. Like, good job
for a dog creature. Good for him.
Yeah. Good for that guy.
Yeah. Although Guam is ours, so we don't have an ambassador so much as we just have like maybe a guy who goes there to make sure the country's not on fire.
Exactly. Yeah. Which we can probably entrust like some kind of sentient dog to do that.
We can engineer some kind of talking dog.
Hey, it's Ambassador, the talking dog.
Ambassador would be a good name for a dog. You would just always say with respect, Ambassador.
That's a great name for a dog.
Yeah.
Your Honor. But yeah, I feel like this is kind of, I appreciate how fast it is. It doesn't sound asleep, but it is kind of middle of the road.
Yeah.
Like middling. Underneath the Bunker, which is the surprise novelty song that they ended the first side with it.
Yeah.
I also don't know what to think about this. Like, I think it is kind of like, again, good on a vacuum, but the goofs are just coming too fast and furious on this record for me.
Yeah, a little bit. So let's talk about this. This is less than a minute, I think. If it's not less than a minute, it's less than two. It's very slight. The origin story for this. So Bill Berry went and ate some Greek food and he thought, hey, we should probably do something like Mediterranean like this. So he, along with Mike Mills, kind of composed this flamenco style thing and recorded it. We're going to see that a little bit in some of the demos and outtakes, like the rhythm section of the band, the playing section would just do these little genre style dalliances. They recorded this, had a lot of fun with it. Added the lyrics, added Stipe's vocals through a megaphone and said, well, we need to lighten this up a little bit. So let's pop it at the end of the first half of the first side.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so slight. It's hard to get like that mad at it,
Right.
It's just like, again, it feels like studio fuck aroundery.
Yeah.
Like the stuff in that they do that is, those kind of things on this album feel like B-sides to me.
Yeah.
Like this would be such a fun B-side.
Yep.
And it's not like I want it to be all serious all the time or anything like that. I just feel like, especially when we get to the B-sides, like Theme from Two Steps Onward and Bad Day are both B-side, like outtakes of this album, and those are both great songs.
Yeah.
That I would love to have had on this record. You know, and I would have replaced either some of these novelty hits or like 4 songs on the second side. Maybe not 4, but like the second, I think this gets pretty weak as we're going.
Yeah. But like as again, a relic of this presentation, this would have been like the bonus track of the first side, right? Yeah. But instead, it's stuck between Hyena, which is ostensibly a song about nuclear war, or it could be read like that, and Flowers of Guatemala, which is about oppression and, you know...
In South America. It's the second of the oppression suite.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, if I think of it as a hidden track, it also makes me feel better about it too.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's just this little like minute-long thing that comes in the middle. Yeah. You know, at the end of the album.
I like the production on it. I really enjoy the loudspeaker approach to the vocals.
Oh yeah,
you know?
Megaphone, and he does that stuff live during the Green tour, and it's awesome. Like it shows up in like I'll Turn You Inside Out,
nice,
and things, and it's really cool. Like I love the sound of loudspeakers. I had one of my friends found me an old, and it worked for not enough time to record a song with it. So like he found me a piece of electronics that had like 20 seconds of life left in it. And it was a fighter pilot throat mic.
Oh shit.
And I was like, oh man, I'm going to do something cool with this. And it worked for like 2 seconds.
Oh no.
But it was so cool. And like, I've always kind of kept when I go thrifting, I keep an eye out for weird old microphones.
Yeah.
You know, because I like that sound a lot.
Yeah.
That kind of broken distorted. I mean, it's like, and then like the Strokes would go on to do that with a lot of stuff too, like kind of have this like weird distorted effect on the vocals. But
people accused Michael Stipe of just ripping this technique off from people in Athens. Like there were other more genuine artists who did this before him, and he just kind of parroted it. Who knows how much that should be looked at. Yeah.
You don't have a copyright on Megaphone,
Mr. Show, what are you doing? Why are you stealing this material?
Yeah, this is the original monster of Megaphone crooning. Separate Side begins with The Flowers of Guatemala.
Yeah.
Which is a very pretty song that I think will blow over if you look at it too hard.
It's such a soft boy.
Yeah. You know, it is really, really slight. Like I like this song. It's very pretty.
Yeah.
There's just not a lot to it.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It's I enjoy the imagery. I love like the chorus. Amanita is the name. The flowers cover everything. Like talking about just this entire region could be, you know, incredibly beautiful. However, Amanita is a style of, or it is a species of incredibly poisonous fungus that is native to the region. So talking about like, there's terrible stuff covering the countryside down here because of what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, and it is, you know, the band themselves are really into the song. You know, there's like anecdotes of them like looking out into the crowd and everyone's crying.
Yeah,
you know,
openly weeping.
Yes. I had that quote too in my thing. And it's like, you know, okay, you know, like I get it. Like it is a very pretty song, you know, and I like it. It's good. It's just like, you know, it's the kind of thing where I think earlier R.E.M. they would do something like this where it was this slight, but there'd be like maybe more parts to the song, or it'd be a little bit more complicated melodically if it was going to have this kind of soft tone to it, that maybe would give it a little bit more of a spine, you know?
Yeah. I forget if it was this or if it was Green Grow the Rushes, where the book I was reading had an anecdote where Michael Stipe was kind of bemoaning that nobody knew what they were about. It had to have been Green Grow the Rushes because this is pretty direct. But then like he talked about somebody coming up after a show and saying that's the best song about foreign policy I've ever heard, and Michael Stipe just like hugged him and said, "Oh my gosh, that's the best!" Like, you know, just this incredible moment of vindication that somebody got it.
Like you got it, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. This has a straight up just guitar solo.
Yeah, like that's really weird. Ding, 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 ding.
I forgot about it because when I listen to this album, it's usually just the first half. I listened to it and I was like, I did a double take.
Yeah, it's very rare.
Yeah.
It will become more common as the band goes on, and this isn't the first one, but it is very super rare.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's a good song.
Yeah.
I believe is what Throw Those Trolls Away eventually became eventually in kind of a weird way.
Yeah.
And I'm not super into I Believe.
Neither am I.
Yeah. I think the lyrics are the lyrics are worse.
Mm-hmm.
and it's just it's a little too middle of the road.
A little bit too and like the lyrics are just so declarative. Like it's there in the title, but it's like I believe my shirt is wearing thin, or I believe in coyotes and time as an abstract.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of like I statements in music, especially if they are used in an abstract kind of sense. You see that in a lot of the bands that we've talked about, like on Try This. Here it doesn't work for me at all because it's just there's no flow to it.
There's no sophistication to it.
Yeah,
like eventually there'll be kind of like the and it feels very like direct, and kind of like even when it's indirect, it's direct. So like you run into things like the part where it's like practice makes perfect is a fault, and fault lines change. Like that was laser designed to feel meaningful and deep to me when I was like very young.
Yeah.
And then now that I'm older, I'm just kind of like, all right. Like it feels a little wordplay 101.
Yeah.
To me, and then just kind of musically, I just don't think this is all that special.
Right.
Like the chorus, like the kind of I believe part is kind of nice, but it's not. It's hard for me to get excited about this.
Yeah. They have taken an accordion and put it in like a pill and a little bit of cheese, and somehow made it palatable, which is fine. It doesn't come to the fore, but it's definitely there, and it's it is something to grab onto. It's a little bit of much needed texture for this.
Yeah. Whereas as opposed, otherwise it'd be like, what would even be there? And then I think What If We Give It Away this is my least favorite song on the album.
Oh God, by and large, yeah.
I think this is a really bad song. Like this is really boring and direct and shitty and like just really, really bland.
Can I take us back one before we get, because I want to tear into it. We didn't talk about how I believe opens up with 16 seconds of banjo hoedown boogie.
Yeah, that's true. Which is he's trying to play. It's cute hearing them talk about it, where like Peter Buck is saying, like, oh, I thought I'd play banjo, and I'd really learn it, and honestly, that's the only thing I ever learned how to do was the beginning of that song,
Yeah. And he didn't know he was being recorded for that, though.
Yeah, which is cute. I love it when musicians do that kind of thing. And we've never really touched on them, but like there are those little like instrumental breaks between songs on the first couple albums.
Yeah,
that we didn't. I don't think we really spent very much time on, but that is a thing that they do, is they'll put these kind of things. This one just happens to be part of the track.
Yeah,
But yeah, what if we did give it away?
Oh,
what would that be like?
Yeah, this is. I don't know what they're doing here.
It's really, really direct.
Yeah, like is it a song about like universal guaranteed income?
Kind of.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, there's not enough lyrics for it to be that, but that's what the theming feels like it's about.
Yeah.
I just think the music is really boring in the song.
Yeah. And so like leading into or supporting the idea that there was just not enough new stuff written for this, like this is a revived song from the Chronic Town days. Like this used to be called Get On Their Way. They picked it up, dusted it off, and then just like, here you go, let's put this on the last half of the album. And this is kind of like this 1-2 punch between I Believe and what if we give it away. It's hard for them to come back from this. Like, well, I think it's go ahead.
Yeah, it's those two, and then I feel like Flowers of Guatemala is good. Just a Touch is kind of at least like has energy, but they're not. Those are also like B level songs.
Yeah,
at the best. Like there's nothing that rises above like B- or B on the second half for me.
Okay.
Like I like Swan H.
Yep.
That's an interesting song. But it still feels a little like stunt music to me. And then they didn't write Superman,
right?
Which is a good song. Like it's a cool thing. But this whole back half, it just feels underwritten and. Were not the choices I would have made.
Yeah, it just feels like a little bit poorly considered.
Yeah. Which is weird because this was them being like, we're going to make an arena rock album that's going to like do it, And the first album sounds exactly like that, or the first side.
Yeah,
is like, fuck yeah, you are. This is going to be like you guys' Joshua Tree or whatever, like. Sorry to keep making these YouTube comparisons. It's the production, I swear. But like, this is going to be that for you. And then I just think the second side just like really falls down.
Yeah.
It never I think this is the worst one, but like it doesn't, when you say that like I Believe and What If We Give It Away, they never really come back from that. It's not like the songs right before that are super standout either, or right after it. I guess is just my point.
Yeah. But yeah, this is just an incredibly sparse thing. The guitar is pretty spaced out. Mike Mills, is carrying it again as the workhorse of the band, but it can't save it. It cannot carry the song through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Transitions to Just the Touch, which is another like old song. This is a pre-Chronic Town song that there are live versions of. We talked about, back in the first episode.
Yeah. From their like dance rock numbers kind of thing.
Yeah. And this is something where it doesn't have that kind of like goofy charm to it. Like the guitar in the beginning of this, I think is really kind of embarrassing. Like it is, I don't know.
Yeah. And it's got this contrast going, right? Because it's a hybrid song. It's got this fast, shouty punk kind of sound. It's very up tempo. Michael Stipe isn't so much singing as he is just getting the words out. But then during the choruses, you get this piano that comes in and does these slick little runs that makes it sound like a power pop song. Yeah, it's really weird. It's a real interesting kind of contrast with the production and songwriting. Yeah. The chorus of this I like a little bit more than I like the verses of it. At the very least, as far as kind of being catchy, and like I've seen live performances of this that are kind of seem like they tick the roof off. Yeah, like I can see that, right? Like this being really fun to see live, which is something we said about a lot of the living room dance band R.E.M. stuff. Yep, and their contemporaries. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. But yeah, it still feels pretty slight. To me. Ends with an homage to Patti Smith. Says, "I'm young, I'm so goddamn young." That's what she shouted on a couple of songs, but most notably on her cover of "My Generation" by The Who. Yeah. Yep. This moves into Swan Swan H. Yes. AKA Swan Swan Hummingbird. Yeah, which makes more sense and is more natural to say. Yes. But this is it's a Civil War murder ballad kind of thing. Yeah. Yeah, this was the story behind how this was written is kind of interesting. They had a van breakdown in Wyoming, in Wyoming, and we're like stuck in a van for 9 hours, and they had tons of beer because these guys, like, you get the sense these guys are like DUI crazy. Like these guys drink all the time. Yeah, whether no matter who's driving, no matter where they're at. This time there's a drunk period, and so they were just like, we're gonna set out in this hot van and get drunk and write some songs. And they wrote this one near the beginning, so they remembered it. Everything else they wrote they forgot because of booze. Right. So they remembered Swan Swan H. And they wrote this in like 20 minutes, and it was the only thing that came out of that weird little van session that they did. Yeah, the only thing that lasted. Their van jam. Yep. And it sounds like I like this song. I was hard on it a second ago. Like I don't love it. It does feel a little stunty to me because it is like a genre song. Yeah, they're really leaning into a stereotypical interpretation of a kind of music, and also the lyrics in this are just straight up about the Civil War. Like the chorus begins with a reference to Johnny Reb. Yeah. The lyric of this, the "What noisy cats are we" became a t-shirt slogan. Yep. For them during this tour, which I've always liked. That's a good phrase. Yeah, it's a great phrase. Like the lyrics of this are good, like for being and that like, the chorus part of it, the like cup of wine where the whiskey is, where the whiskey is water and the water is wine, like part of this is really good. Yeah. When I was in high school, there was this kid I used to know named Micah Bunagel, and he was a homeschooled kid, had Spock eyebrows. Okay. And he was like a study hall buddy. He's the person, he's weird, super, super religious, super, super homeschooled, and like kind of a weird kid. And I remember like in study hall, like I would, just write lyrics down, not my own lyrics, but like, recite lyrics essentially. Yeah. Jot them down from my head. And we did that. And like we were passing notes back and forth. And he was like, write something down. And I wrote down lyrics to this. And he was like, I don't really get it. Here's a song I really like. And he wrote down the lyrics for CCR's Fortunate Son, I think. Okay. Was like his answer to this. And it was kind of weird. Like made sense in retrospect, but at the time I was just like, yeah. And then I also went over to his house once I was like, I was into comics at the time, and the only comics he had were Wizard of Id collections. Like no joke. Like, and he loaned me a bunch of Wizard of Id, like little tiny books. Like, wait, so is Wizard of Id the one that's weirdly regressive, or am I thinking of BC? I think you're thinking of BC. Wizard of Id is like
it's the same kind of drawing, or like what are those two bums, like the two homeless guy comics? I can't remember, Frank and Otis or whatever. Yeah. But it's them, and like the comics are essentially like, "Sir, the peasants are revolting," and then him being like, "Yeah, they don't smell good either." Like that's pretty much the extent of the Wizard of Id.
Okay.
It is like medieval, like that kind of humor, but he had like all the collections of Wizard of Id because his parents controlled what kind of media he could like, because religion and homeschool, so but yeah, that is just like, that's my very strong swan hummingbird memory, is like reciting this from memory and then like passing it to a dude and him being like, "No, I don't get it."
Hey, here's a cool song about war. Well, here's my song about war. You probably associate it with helicopters.
Yeah, and establishing shots of Vietnam. Yeah.
I'm a sucker for this. There was definitely a time when this kind of like super serious presentation of something really spoke to me. Like this is entirely straight face. There's almost no air in this because of how grim it is, and so I hear it and I think of like the way I was back then, and it's hard to separate that. Yeah. I mean, I wrote it down in the thing, so like it was definitely, I'm into it. Yeah, like I like this song quite a bit, but it does have that genre thing to it. It would be a fantastic album closer.
It'd be a phenomenal album closer. And like, so we move into Superman, which is a cover. It's their first cover that ends up on an album.
Right.
It won't be the last. And Superman is a good song. Yeah. Like this is a good, fun pop song, and it's Mike Mills' first lead vocal.
Yep.
So that is that's huge. It is just, it's so just like such just a pop song.
Yep. It's straight up bubblegum is what is what it is.
Yeah, this is a bubblegum pop song that ends up as the album closer for their, like, we're going to make it, this is our arena rock album. Mm-hmm. There's like the tracking is just kind of weird and misguided in this record, I think.
Yeah. It's so weird because I would expect Mike Mills rather singing lead to kind of be a little bit further forward in the mix. I don't know if he's doubled in a way that he usually is when he sings backup, but like it's like the either his voice or just the way it's presented makes this sound like an extended R.E.M. chorus. They just muted Michael Stipe's track and here is what's behind it.
I think that's a good way to put it. Like it definitely, that's just kind of how he sings. Like he's not a wonderful lead vocalist.
No.
Like he's a really talented vocalist, but his voice doesn't have quite enough like grit, or kind of to carry like a solo. Vocal. And we'll run into this like every song that he does lead on, kind of from here on out, even though I end up loving those songs, but a whole album of that might get a little too waifish. I think it's hard to compare anybody being too waifish for Michael Stipe, but like Michael Stipe,
they found each other.
He's got a voice that like is very like, has some grit and character to it.
Yeah.
Whereas Mike Mills is the perfect backing vocalist.
Yeah.
It's really, really cute. It's like cute and fun. It's just like, it's light.
Yeah.
Light.
but I do enjoy the song a lot.
Yeah, it's really good.
I don't know if it fits here, but I will at least die on the hill that this is cool. I'm happy that people got to hear it, and I like it when our dork boy makes good.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
me too. There are a host of outtakes for this.
Holy shit, so many.
They did they recorded tons of material, which is part of, again, the Monday morning quarterbacking, but part of what makes that sequencing so frustrating.
Yeah.
To me. So let's talk about B-sides and outtakes.
Yes. Tired of Singing Trouble. This is very strange. It's Stipe belting out in front of just a bass and a very simple snare beat.
Mm-hmm. It's I think that it is probably they were just in the studio goofing around.
Yeah.
And it just happened to get recorded.
Yeah.
It sounds like a cover to me.
It does.
It seems like it should be, but it's not. Like this should be an old like Appalachian blues song or something.
Yeah, it's like a wailing "Woe is me" kind of song. Is how it comes across.
Yep. Yeah. Rotary 10, which is a B-side. This is a jazz instrumental. That again, this feels like stunt music to me. Like it feels like if you take to a musician and be like, "Hey, try this genre."
Yeah.
And then they do it.
Give me some jazz.
Yeah.
I I've got this in quotes here, but it's like, why not let the rhythm section do something? And this is what they come up with. Like like this sounds like something that Mike Mills and Bill Berry would just kind of lay down as they were goofing off and warming up, and then like Peter Buck would come in and say, "I know some seventh chords."
Yeah. It's fine. I think that Peter Buck, this ended up on Dead Letter Office, and he's like, "This is a soundtrack for a movie that doesn't exist," and that's a good way to put it, because like that is what it sounds like to me. At this time, they're covering live the song "Toys in the Attic" by Aerosmith, and they recorded a studio version for B-side.
Yeah,
which is not an Aerosmith song I knew. Like, do you know this song?
Yeah, I know the song. It was a title track on that album, and I think that there was another song that came off of it. There was a time when I listened to some Aerosmith. I don't know. Like, did you go through this phase when you were like late high school, early college, where it's like, I'm going to try on just some classic rock and see?
I did, but I went. I did, but it was like Boston.
Yeah, I did a lot of Boston, and some of this was aided by Guitar Hero at the time and Rock Band and stuff. But like, ended up with Boston and Neil Young and Crazy Horse. But like, to get there, you have to venture through the Aerosmith Badlands. So "Toys in the Attic" is definitely a song of theirs. I think it was a single. It doesn't work for me. Not as an R.E.M. song. Yeah,
it's not the worst Aerosmith song.
No.
Like, Aerosmith is going to get really embarrassing. But this is, this just sounds like kind of a 70s rock song.
Yeah.
I think that the pre-chorus to this sounds really good. Even the R.E.M. I think the verses and chorus are stupid. I think the chorus is awful. Yeah. Toys. Like, it's just, do not like that.
So we say what you will about Aerosmith, and we've said we've talked a lot of shit. They do know how to build up to a chorus. Like those pre-chorus bridges do get you hyped to be disappointed.
Yeah, it's like a reverse Boston. Like a Newark.
Yeah,
I don't actually know that to be true.
It's in Alston.
Yeah. I just feel like that's you got to be catty about places in New Jersey. So there's a studio they included in the B-side, "Dream," the Everly cover or song, "Dream, All I Have to Do." This was recorded at that Athens Inside Out thing. So that's where it became, but it also was a B-side.
Yeah, it's a pretty strict cover. The Everly Brothers did it pretty well. It's kind of weird that this exists. It feels a little bit extraneous, but for it works for a band that leans so much on vocal harmonies. It's nice and pleasant. Yeah,
it's fine. It's cute.
Yeah.
Femme Fatale, the Velvet Underground song, they do. So Femme Fatale is a very falsetto, because it's a Nico song. Initially, it kind of led plotting Velvet Underground number.
Yeah. I dig it. I like the Velvet Underground, and you can tell that they're fans by how they approach this.
White Tornado, which we talked about before, but that shows up in a studio version. I hear this is their surf rock song. Yeah. The theming here, when you're looking at all of these outtakes and you're looking at the album, look at just how many songs are not only are they like Crocktown songs, but how many are covers too.
Yeah.
There is this kind of evidence of just like, guys, like
you're in a rut. Stop.
Yeah. Like this is not what you guys do. Like, generally you guys make like a 2-minute, they had enough stuff for Fables to do a double album, and some of that stuff ended up even on this. So there is like just a real sense of a breathness of new stuff.
Yeah.
So many covers and old songs.
Yeah. Theme from Two Steps Onward. This feels very much like a Fables song to me. It leads with the bass. It's very dark. It opens up in the chorus. Why is it called Theme from Two Steps Onward?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it's probably, I haven't really spent any time with the lyrics of this.
Yeah.
That's my guess is that it is, Two Steps Onward is probably appropriate for it. I like the song a lot. I think that if it had gotten a little bit of development, if they had like made it into a studio track, like it could use another part.
Yeah.
It's just kind of the transition from the verse, like that kind of 2-note weird bass verse thing, which I like a lot, to the chorus, which I like a lot. The transition is not quite there.
No.
This would have been really cool though if they had put it in the oven and made another part. But this is just an outtake. This isn't even a B-side or anything. So there's never been really a released version of this. Which kind of a bummer.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's released on this thing as this outtake, but it's never been on an official release, I guess.
Right.
It's never been a B-side or anything.
Yeah. I would have liked to have seen that slotted in instead of what if we gave it away? Pretty much anything. Give me Rotary 10.
Yeah. I mean, then it would be like, this is the novelty album. Like,
yeah.
You know, you start putting that in there, like the Wind Out, Rotary 10, and, you know, it's just exclusively just genre exercises.
Yeah.
But I think this is a strong song that feels like really developed for an outtake.
Yeah.
Which I would have liked to have seen.
Yeah. Mystery to me, this has to have been a holdout from Reckoning, is what it feels like.
Yeah. Or earlier even.
Yeah.
Like this has that, because this is I did some review, but there's a lot of these B-sides. Is this the one that's like people in cars, people that live in like that? I think this might be earlier than that even.
Yeah.
So again, just kind of like pulling from their old stock. This is real slight.
Yeah.
This isn't a bad song, but it is, needs more time in the oven.
There's not enough there for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Same with Wait.
This
was a mistake. Wait.
Yeah. Wait is, again, kind of cute. It's like a 60s kind of Buddy Holly thing.
Yeah.
Which kind of sounds like just like a rock song from that era. Like it's clear that the dudes are having fun.
Yeah.
Like doing this stuff. Like maybe this is like R.E.M. with too much fun. Like we need we could go back in time and make a snowstorm hit Bloomington at that time or something, and give these guys just a taste of misery to like get them to sadden up just a tad, you know?
just give it to them.
Just a touch. And then Bad Day, they recorded a studio version, and we're playing this live at this point. This was when they released their big best of,
yes.
like their like actual best of. This was the single from it. They re-recorded this, did a video that's really fun actually. If when we get to that, that's a good video.
Yeah, I like that video a lot. I like this song too.
I like the song an awful lot. Like I think this is a really good song, and is, I'm not going to say like, since there's so many high highs on Life's Rich Pageant, but like it would be on the album, it would be the fourth best song, fourth or fifth best song on the album. Like it would be a good song to replace some of the craft. Yeah. I think.
Yeah. I love the pre-chorus and the fact that they do it without actually leading to it, but the dun 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 dun. That that particular like patter part of it works incredibly well. I mean, like this is a prototype for End of the World as we know it. Like from the opening to like the frenetic kind of motor mouth kind of approach to this, the chorus with Mills singing something different in the background. Like this is a rough sketch of what that would eventually become. Yeah, and I love that song too. Like I don't want this at the expense of, it's the end of the world as we know it. I just think you could do both. Yeah. And I think that they are very similar, but they are different enough to where I wouldn't like storm Town Hall if they were both on records. Right. It's I would have really liked to have seen this on the album. There's a couple other ones that aren't in the notes. Mm-hmm. Not a whole lot, but are kind of worth just bringing up briefly. They recorded a studio version of All the Right Friends. Yep. That Airman song or Luckman song. But that, again, another old one. They didn't quite do it, put it on the album, but they did that, record it. The other thing too, is there's a song called, is it March Song? Which is I'm sorry, King of Birds. There were so many outtakes on this or B-sides. I think I dropped a whole section of your notes. I've listened to it. That March song is really weird.
Well, it's King of Birds. Oh, it's Document. Like, okay. Not yet young, there's time to teach. Point observation. Like it's the weird round from Document. So it's cool to see some Document stuff show up on here, because I think that album has really weird kind of production and weird songs on it. So it's kind of neat to hear one in an early version. Yeah. Okay. Well, I didn't draw that connection. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is. I'm pretty sure it's the same music. Like it's like a karaoke version of that. And then there are kind of demo versions of some of the other stuff that showed up that are not that revelatory. No. So this is where you can hear Get on Their Way. This is where you can hear, these old versions of stuff. You can hear the Fall on Me with the entirety of the vocal melody, the old vocal melody, which is interesting as a completist, but the album version is much better. Yeah. It'll show you like it's a good case for, production, being a good friend, or, time in the studio, or time with a good producer on top of this. and he just kind of like road tested it.
Yep.
So like there's anecdotes where it talks about him coming out on stage, even during Reckoning, they would play that song, or not Reckoning, Fables, the Reconstruction tour, and was like trying out new lyrics and new vocal melodies like every night.
Yeah.
Just kind of road testing the material. And ended up ultimately kind of sculpting that into a masterpiece. So like it worked out. But the early version's fun for me because I do a podcast about R.E.M. and I like R.E.M. a lot. So like in the end, like it is hard to like this album as a thing. Like I think this is the first one that we've done so far. I think that you had said the opposite of this about Fables, how it kind of is a cohesive piece you listen to all together. This is something I'm very comfortable running a skimmer over and taking my favorite songs and bringing them with me and kind of not listening to the album front to back.
Yeah.
And it might be the first one where that's true. Like there would be a couple songs I'd want to skip on every record so far, but this is the one where the proportions are almost different. Like I want to take the 5 songs from this I love, not like I want to omit the 2 songs I don't.
It tells an unflattering story where the album quite literally runs out of steam a little bit after the halfway mark.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't look good, and it harms the entire thing as a product. That said, like the highs on this are so fucking high.
Yeah, you'd never get rid of this record.
Yeah.
It is it's incredible. It's got like such like the first side of it is so good. And it is so, it's important to them. It was important to them, not just because I care about them and want them to do well, and we wouldn't have the later records that I love if this record didn't do as well as it did. But it's like the best songs on this, the best parts of it are stand with the best stuff they've ever done.
Yeah.
Like Fall on Me is as good a song as they've written. It ties for first with everything. It's just that gooey second half that kind of kills it for me. And I would love to know, like, there'd be no way to find out about it because people have talked about, when you read about the guys in the band, they're just like, yeah, it was great. Like I would love to have, if I was really close friends with these guys and be like, hey, what do you think of this idea? Maybe the second side of this is a little gooey, like, and then they could be like, no, I disagree. Or they could be like, oh, actually, we wanted to lean it. We didn't want to get away from our folk side. So we put a bunch of mid-tempo stuff on the second side.
Yeah. To maintain our credibility.
Yeah. Like maybe there's something to it.
Yeah.
Or it could just be taste, but for me, like this runs out of steam and starts so strong that it kind of dies on the album eventually.
Yeah. I'd be curious. You wouldn't get anything out of the 4 guys. Gemin, like if he actually had a preferred version of the mix in his mind, because we talked about that on Reckoning, where like Mitch Easter said, hey, here's the way this should go, and then they went to dinner and came back and said, here you go, here's this, and that album didn't really suffer for it. I'm curious what he, with his sensibility, would have coaxed them toward if they were at all receptive to it.
Yeah me too. So kind of highs and lows. Like the low for me is definitely What If We Gave It Away. I don't think it gets worse than that.
If you had to pick a runner up, because I would jettison that one into the sun if I could.
If I had to jettison that one in the sun, it would probably be I Believe.
Yep, me too. Okay, so
I think those are the 2 worst. Just the Touch is also near there. Like that's something I don't think is particularly fun to listen to on the album version. While I'd probably like it live. So, and then the strongest, again, if I'm jettisoning Fall on Me, which I think is the best song of the album, I would probably do These Days. So I've got to give a nod to Cuyahoga, but the song that I've listened to the most and the song that I think is my biggest takeaway, outside of Fall on Me, is Begin the Begin. I feel a little bit dumb for 2 albums in a row picking the opener. No, I mean they're really great openers. Like it is the closing is always inconsistent, but the opening, they have a couple different ways they do it and they're generally good at it. And I just what could have been, like if this had kind of more of those, if they hadn't quite spent so much time shaving off the rough edges and it added a couple of those weirdo outtakes. Would have really liked it. But I mentioned this, but one of my favorite things about doing the show is finding those songs. Like I'd never heard a theme from Two Steps Onward. Obviously I'd heard Bad Day because it became a single, but like it's a really good song and I've never heard it. So it's cool to hear new R.E.M. songs.
So the next episode is going to be about Dead Letter Office, nominally, but it more accurately could be called our listener feedback episode. So if you want to write in, there should still be time. If you want to do that, go to duckfeed.tv/contact, or there's a contact tab on fileunderwater.net. Either of those will work.
Yeah, we will talk about the release of Dead Letter Office.
Yeah.
And stuff. The biography stuff will still kind of be around, but we've already talked about those songs.
Yeah.
If you like the show, it is a very important, specifically for the show. Not tons of people listen to it. We know you're out there, Jeff, Chris, and Sarah, who do. Tell people about it.
Yeah.
Do what you can, rate and review it, things like that. We like doing the show. It is very much a vanity project, which we kind of knew going in. But it'll be more fun for us and more fun for you, I think, if more people listen to the show.
Yeah. If you like the show a lot and you can afford it, we know that times, may not be the best for a lot of people. Go to patreon.com/DuckFeed.tv. If you can afford to kick us a couple of bucks a month, that makes a huge difference for us. It allows us to do kind of these out there projects like this that are a lot of fun, and hopefully you enjoy, and you get some cool stuff in return. So go there, take a look at the rewards. It does help us out an awful lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And that's probably about it.
I think so.
We appreciate you listening to the show, and we'll see you guys next time with listener mail and such.
Yeah.
And it is the end of the podcast as we know it.
And we feel fine.